for the masses. Today's Wednesday, August 31st. 244 days into the new year, just 122 days left. We are live from a bunker somewhere in downtown Burbank, California. I would like to welcome everybody listening all around the world, all across the United States, hither and thither, to and fro, back and forth, up and down, east and west, north and south, far and near. This is Fade to Black for KJCR, the Game Changer Network, and KGRA, the Planets. I'm your oh so humble host, Jimmy Church. What is cracking? All right. Let's bring it down a little bit here. Continuing. Actually, well, I guess we're late in the fourth quarter. Continuing our 2 weeks of pure UFO coverage right here on Fade to Black. Tonight, we have with us the one and only Linda Moulton Howe. Back with us. Wow, spirited conversations I've had with her today. More on that in just a bit. Tomorrow night, David Icke is back. He's taking a night off from his worldwide wake-up tour to hang out with us right here on Fade to Black. And as promised, I will see if we can squeeze in some phone calls tonight. I know I've been neglecting each and every one of you this week. 323-825-5045. All right, I'll see what I can do. Follow right now on Twitter at JChurchRadio. That's what you want to do, at JChurchRadio. All right? Very simple. Hashtag F2B is the sandbox on Twitter. All right? If you are new to the show, you're listening tonight, maybe you did a drive-by last night to check out Tom DeLong, and you're back tonight. If you're a new listener to the show is interactive. Totally interactive. Twitter runs live to my left. The sandbox is hashtag F2B. Fully engaged. All of the Fadernauts are there. Come and hang out with us. It's a very cool place to do it. If you want to go and just chat away and you feel limited by the 140 character content that is Twitter, go to the Spreaker chat room. Go to the KGRA chat room. KGRA chat room's got sound effects and all that crazy stuff, and you can go and hang out there too as well. All right? But everything is interactive. And I try to stop by and hang out with everybody throughout the show. Okay? Any questions or comments for myself or a guest like tonight, Linda Moulton Howe, use the hashtag F2B. Very simple. F, the number 2, B, Q. That's Fade to Black Questions. Yeah, we thought of that ourselves. Pretty smart. I thought so. You can also email throughout the show tonight, Jimmy@jimmychurchradio.com. There you go. It's been a crazy, unbelievably informative 2 weeks on the show. Pure UFO for 2 weeks. Didn't mix it up. And tomorrow night is going to be a little enlightenment, David Icke style, to close out the week. But tonight we have the closer, Linda Moulton Howe. And with Linda, I just want to say this the right way. Linda and I engage in conversation. That's what we do. And we do it best on this show. She loves to come in here and share her information, but she knows what this is about. This show is about talking between friends and getting it done. And that's what we're going to do tonight with Linda. We've got a few pretty interesting cases that we're going to talk about tonight and some of the other news. But the best thing about having Linda on the show is getting inside of her mind, because she has been to places that you and I can only dream about. She's done it. She is the real deal. Very, very excited to have her back with us. And there was nobody better to close out 2 weeks of pure UFO than Linda Moulton Howe. Last night, Tom DeLong was here with us for 2.5 hours. Tom was, if you heard the show last night, great. Tom was literally by design, driving around Southern California in his car to do the show. Okay. And I think the conversation, and I'm going to get back to this in a second, but I think the conversation was great. And Tom and I had a brief exchange today, about, how to go, what do you think, that kind of thing. And more on that in a second. But I thought that the show last night was unbelievable. And you can get his book, Secret Machines, Book 1, Chasing Shadows, right now. You can get it for 15% off. If you just go to jimmychurchradio.com, click on the banner right there for Chasing Shadows. You'll see it for Secret Machines. Click on it and use the promo code Fade to Black. Fade to Black. No spaces. And you're going to get 15% off. And him and his company are doing that for the Fadernauts. They're fans of the show. And it was a much anticipated conversation last night. And it was all of that. And so that is for you, the Fadernauts, Secret Machines, Book 1. And now, him announcing the Bob Lazar autobiography coming out in a couple of months, that's pretty big news, announced on the show last night. Also announced on the show last night was Peter Levenda's nonfiction book, the first nonfiction. And that's going to be coming out in a month or two. It's ready. I think it's at the editors now. I spoke to Levenda last week about it, and I spoke to, of course, Tom last night, and that's getting ready to come out. The documentary was ready and will be out at a future date because they've got to put some more stuff into it. But apparently it was ready. That's the thing. You don't need to tell us that part. Dude, I was going to release it today, but anyway, so a bunch of stuff was revealed last night in the show, but you can go get Secret Machines right now, Book 1, for 15% off. David Icke is going to be with us tomorrow. But you can also check out David live next month on his Worldwide Wake Up Tour right here in the United States. And click on the banner over at jimmychurchradio.com, and that'll take you over to his ticket page for tickets and info for Los Angeles, New York, and San Francisco. I think New York is up first, then Los Angeles on the 17th, and then the Craneway up in San Francisco on the 24th. And I look to see all of you at the Irvine event. All of you Fadernauts, come on down to Irvine here in Los Angeles. I want to see all of you and hang out, okay? And we'll talk to David more about that tomorrow night and give away some tickets and stuff. Okay. Now, while you are over at jimmychurchradio.com, don't forget CCCP Publishing. Click on their banner and purchase Future Esoteric right now by author Brad Olson for $12.97. That's a special Fadernaut price, and they're going to throw a second book in the box just for you. Just use the promo code Jimmy. And also Life Change Tea. And always remember, we get requests from people all the time. How do we support the show? How do we support the show? You give away everything for free. Everything's free. We listen for free. It's on YouTube for free. Everything is free, free, free. I get that. Okay? But you support the show through our sponsors. We have such a large audience that we have advertisers. They want to support the show. So that's how it's done. Okay, and Life Change Tea, getthetea.com, one of the best companies out there. Ronnie just runs one of the best, and he's in here, once or twice a month hanging out with all of you. Go and support the show through our sponsors, Life Change Tea, right now, through the phone or online. When you order, use the promo code Jimmy, and you will get free shipping on your order. Go to the specials page right now, and all of the deals are there. Get it done. Change your life. Everybody here, all the Fadernauts, my family, everybody is on the program. And it's an awesome one. So go and do it now. And also check out Studio Dome and their Fadernaut special. It's a hard shell case packed with a portable Bluetooth sound stereo system featuring the new TWS True Wireless Stereo technology. It is stereo Bluetooth. It is the latest technology. 2 USB B2 speakers, and power cables. Everything you need for $129, all in a hard shell case. Use promo code JCRTWS. All right, let's get this show cracking. Happy birthday to Van friggin' Morrison, 71 years old. I'll tell you a funny story about Van. Never met him. No, I'm not going to go there. But, everybody knows my band is Van Halen. And I'm back when there were music stores, right? There was a music store over by my house in Sherman Oaks. And I'm in there. It's Tower Records. And I'm in there and I'm going through Van Halen CDs, right? And, obviously Van Morrison, Van Halen, they're next to each other. And the Van Halen CD section was about 6 inches deep, right? 8 inches deep. I'm just flipping through whatever. I know everything. I'm looking for some hidden gem, some remastered copy of Van Halen 2, right? And I'm going through. And then I just look to the right. Van Morrison, and I thought it was a mistake. Van Morrison didn't have 8 inches of the thing. He didn't have 10. He had 3 rows, 3 feet deep. I was like, what the hell? Van Morrison. Man, that guy cranks out an album like every 2 weeks. And there they all were. And it's unbelievable how prolific he's been over the years and how great he has been. Van Morrison, 71 today. Chris Tucker today is 45. Will always make the list because of Friday. And that's the only reason. No, wait a minute. The Fifth Element was pretty good, too. Debbie Gibson. Yeah, I said it. I say it every year. Debbie Gibson today is 46. I saw Debbie Gibson live at the House of Blues in like 1995. Paid for tickets. Debbie Gibson today is 46. On this day in history, and I think I talked about this last year, too. It's just weird. Things are kind of repetitive, but that's the way it goes. In 1985, Los Angeles mob attacks the Night Stalker. That's right. Richard Ramirez is captured and nearly killed by a mob in East L.A. after being recognized from a photograph that was shown on both television and in the newspapers. And recently identified as the serial killer, Ramirez was pulled from an enraged mob by police officers. And it was a crazy summer that year. But the photographs of Ramirez in the back of the cop car with his head and his face smashed in, he was truly saved. His life was saved that day by the LAPD. Fader fact, a man named Leonard Jones, and I'm doing this because we're right in the middle of an election, right? So I had to come up with some election facts, some presidential election facts. So check this one out. Let me hit this Starbucks. Hold on. Leonard Jones ran for president of the United States several times in the 19th century. His sole platform each time that he ran for POTUS was that he would live forever. Yeah, that was his platform. Well, he died of pneumonia in 1868 after refusing medical treatment. But and that is your Fader fact. All right, continuing 2 weeks of pure UFO coverage tonight. We have Linda Moulton Howe back with us. Tomorrow night, David Icke is going to be here, taking a night off from his worldwide wake-up tour to hang out on Fade to Black. The call-in number tonight, we'll see if we can squeeze in some calls, 323-825-5045. Now, back to Tom DeLonge. The conversation was great, and I don't go back, everyone, you have to understand, I don't go back and listen to shows after they're done. They're done, they're bagged, they get posted, and we're done. It's a live show, it's gone, it's in the ether, it's forever gone. I don't go back and listen. Today I did, And I had to for other technical reasons, but I actually found myself getting sucked into the conversation. And I don't go and listen to shows. I don't like the sound of my own voice, number one. The second reason, I really don't have the time. I just don't. I don't have the time. We do a show nearly every single night of the week, and everything else that we've got going on, there's no time. Well, today I went back and checked it out. And I have to say that I thought Tom was honest. Okay, that's the first thing. The second thing is I thought he was bright. I thought that his thoughts were pure and came out. I don't think it sounded premeditated. It didn't sound scripted to me. And what I mean is, it was just a flowing, natural conversation. But it was also the content. And I started to listen to some of the points that he was making. And as I was doing that today, I'm also getting email and I'm getting posts. And Tom and I also had an exchange today, too, as well, about the show. And I have to say that if you didn't get the message last night, you need to go back and, if you're confused or if you're angry or if you have any questions about the show, just go back and give it a listen again. It's posted up on YouTube. It's in the podcast. You can do whatever you want. You can go and find it. But go and listen to it again because the message is an interesting one. And he repeated the flavor of it a few times to make sure that I think that everybody was getting what he was trying to say. Now, consciousness is where it started out. Consciousness is where it ended. But the religious aspect of it, and privately he mentioned something about that today, and he was getting a little bit of flack for it. But because I think everybody just missed the point. And I think the points are this. Number one, that if we have issues with ET, right? ET is here. That religion isn't going to save you. I think that's part of it. Because that's, and what I mean is, what I mean by that is, it's not a religious thing, but yet it is. Right? And that's what everybody is a little bit confused about. But what he was also saying, that above Hinduism and Islam and Catholicism, Christianity and Buddhism, and above all of that, there is a God, but it's not your God. Do you understand? And that's a very interesting way to look at things. I have always said, and, this is where me and Richard Dawkins just go off the rails, that somewhere, some time ago, eons ago, gazillions of years ago, there's somebody out there that was creating things. Just walking around. I'll point in this direction. I'm going to point in this direction. Creating. And if you look at it in those terms, that, and I've had the same thought since I was like 2. All right? Not God, but God. Somebody that is so intelligent, and as time has gone by, time has gone by, that the intelligence to put us here, to create us, DNA, the sequencing, the odds, the craziness of that being us here is too enormous to be chance. Dawkins and other, they're going to tell you, it was just luck of the draw. It just happened. Lightning comes down and hits some acids and hits some water that's on a crystal in a creek bed. Boom. And DNA spits out in the right sequence. Okay, that's BS. That's not the way it happened. There's somebody out there planting these seeds. And I think that is what Tom is referring to. And I fully agree with that. When we take it beyond, when we go way beyond that, and we think about how things could propagate throughout the solar system, if you think about that for a second, wouldn't you do the same thing if you could? Right? You would plant, create, over here. That's what you would do if you could be the creator. And I think that this is what I came away with Tom last night, is that if we listen to ourselves and we project those good vibes and we are ready, when we find out what's really going on, where we came from, how we got here, and that it wasn't some miracle divine thing, and it wasn't by chance, and we actually find that out, we need to be ready for that. We really do. And that's where Earth becomes one, and not the loving flower children of the 60s. Not that there's anything wrong with that. What I mean is those borders, those things that we have. Borders are the craziest thing. A line in the sand, a line in the dirt, a line through a forest, a line through a lake, a river defining, who we are and who we can talk to and where we can go, and we can't cross this because that's another country and that's them over there and we don't like them and they don't like us. It can't be that way. Now, last night when I brought up the Ronald Reagan speech at the United Nations, which is one of the most important speeches I think ever, says it all. And I don't think it was by chance. I don't think it was an accident. I think it was very deliberate. And that we need to stop looking at ourselves as individuals. We cannot do that. We're all just earthlings. Because if we encountered another planet and we go there and we look, do you honestly think somebody advanced that they would be on that planet fighting each other? No. And that's where I really believe that's the issue that we have here. We need to get beyond that. I don't know how. I really don't. And I think that once you go out, and the people that have done this, that have gone and vacationed or lived in another country or two or three and have been around the world, and you go out there and you see what's really going on, and you come back to the United States, or maybe you're in Germany and you go out and you visit and you go back to Germany, whatever. And once you get out there, you start to realize a few things that, we're all really the same. Fundamentally, we're all really the same. And that's the other part that Tom was driving home last night. And I fully agree and subscribe to that. Now, the other part with Tom last night, and the reason why I'm discussing this, I've got a lot of feedback. There are so many different factions out there in the alternative world, in ufology and the paranormal. And what's really bizarre with that, I'm not going to name names or circles or people or whatever, but there's probably 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 large factions or groups that have certain leaders and people in each one. And then underneath that, there's a subgroup of authors and researchers and people. And below that, and they're talking their message, which is fine. But each one of those groups doesn't agree with the other. And the infighting and the backstabbing and the arguing and I'm right and you're wrong, I'm right and you're wrong. To be honest, I'm at the center of all of that. It's what I do. I know all of them. They've all been guests on this show. And you, as a listener, have heard all of these different points of view. All of you. And you know that I have an open mind and I listen to everybody and I'm trying to figure it all out just like the next guy. So as you listen to all of these different points of view on this show, you are going, man, I don't know what's going on. I was kind of leaning this way, but now I'm not so sure. I'm kind of leaning this. I don't know what's going on. Well, you know what? Nobody does. Nobody does. We all know that something is going on. I have seen the stuff in the sky. I know it's not ours. I know that. So therefore, we need to go beyond and try to figure out what is going on. Tom believes that he is chosen the right way to go about it. And so have others. So we need Tom to continue what he's doing, as are the others. Let them continue to get that information, funnel it through the show. Let's do it together and try to figure out what is going on. And that's what's most important. If Tom comes on the show, Linda's going to be on here in a few minutes, and we all just fight and debate together. That's the best thing that we can do. That is the best, honest way to get all of this out. And let's figure it out together. This is Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Yeah, I walk around with flowers hanging out of my pockets. This is Fade to Black. Our guest tonight, Linda Moulton Howe. She's right here, and she'll be right with us right after this short break. Follow me on Twitter at JChurchRadio. That's what you want to do. Linda is at Earthfiles. Simple enough. Her website is earthfiles.com. I'll be right back.
You're listening to Jimmy Church, Fade to Black.
Fade to Black will now pause for alien identification.
The station that talks the net. KGRA Radio.
What's up, revolutionaries? It's me, Jimmy Church. Do you have an IRS or state tax issue? Well, I did, and I called national tax experts. My problems were fixed, done, fini, and man, I gotta tell you, it was a relief. National Tax Experts are a recognized tax office that services clients in all 50 states. Doesn't matter where you live. Give them a call. I'm telling you, they take the time to understand each and every client's individual financial status as well as their financial goals. And that's exactly what you need, my brother, when you're taking on the evil 3-letter. So, seriously, give them a call today at 1-877-909-5444. Again, 1-877-909-5444. Or go check out their website, www.nattaxexperts.com. That's NATTAXEXPERTS.com. Tell them Jimmy sent you.
Hi, folks. Ronnie here reminding you that June is Health Awareness Month, sponsored by GetTheTea.com. Many of you have heard our tea commercial, maybe visited the website, but haven't committed because, well, you just don't know. Skeptical. We understand. Just to remind you, our tea is not just tea. In fact, very little tea. Life Change Tea is a unique blend of 8 different herbs, removing intruders that attack your health. You brew our tea to make the concentrate, you add water, and put in the fridge. 2 8-ounce glasses a day, and life will be good. Visit us at getthetea.com. That's getthetea.com. And this month is lots of fun stuff with Health Awareness Month. You could be picked and receive your order absolutely free. You never know. Read the testimonies and try our products. Log on to getthetea.com. That's getthetea.com. And for great health tips, visit my YouTube channel at Health Matters Now, where you can learn about health tips and how products work on your body. Join me, getthetea.com.
9 out of 10 geneticists agree.
Fade to Black is not your father's radio show on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, The Planet.
Hi, this is Chase Klutsky with Fate Magazine Radio, and you're listening to Jimmy Church and Fade to Black on the Game Changer Network and the KGRA digital broadcast station, where the Fader-Knots rock.
Hi, this is Rob Reiner from Anvil, and you're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com.
What's up? I'm Chris. What up? This is Kyle Massey. You're listening to Jimmy Church Radio.
All right, welcome back, Fade to Black. Bespoke Radio on the Game Changer Network and KGRA, The Planet. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Follow me right now on Twitter at JChurchRadio. The sandbox is hashtag F2B. You can follow Linda at Earthfiles. Linda Moulton Howe is a graduate of Stanford University with a master's degree in communication. She has devoted her documentary, film, television, radio, and writing and reporting career to productions concerning science, medicine, and the environment. She has received local, national, and international awards, including 3 regional Emmys, a National Emmy nomination, and a Station Peabody Award. She produces, reports, and edits Earthfiles.com, of course. That's where I get my stuff from, everybody, just so you know. She has her own radio program with John Burroughs on KGRA. She appears on Coast to Coast and has, since I think the beginning, Ancient Alien since its first season, and has traveled in and to Venezuela, Peru, Brazil, England, Norway, France, Switzerland, Netherlands, Yugoslavia, Turkey, Ethiopia, Kenya, Egypt, Australia, Japan, Canada, Mexico, the Yucatan, and Puerto Rico for research and productions. Of course, her website is Earthfiles.com, and I would like to welcome back to Fade to Black, the one and only Linda Moulton Howe. Good evening, Linda.
Thank you, Jimmy. It is great to be back.
You know, hey, Linda, I'm just going to let you know, I think you just received, are you dating anybody?
No.
Okay. Well, you just got you got a proposal here in Twitter. So there you go. I'll pass the information on.
All right.
Okay. So there you go. So let's hit the ground running with that, right?
Yeah.
Oh, man, Linda.
It's out into our solar system and the universe.
Oh, man. You know, Linda, you and I know each other really well, but, and it goes without saying, you know, the respect that I have for you. But, you know, seriously, the respect that you have out there in ufology and the fringe and alternative and the way you have done things, which seems like forever. How do you deal with that? I mean, do you ignore it or does it change your focus? Do you listen to people or do you just do your own thing?
No, I've always had a career in mainstream journalism since I graduated from Stanford with a master's degree in communication, and I went to work for radio in Los Angeles, and then I was a producer at KNBC and worked in the newsroom with Tom Brokaw and those guys. And when I was asked to go into the documentary department, I worked there for a year on documentaries, and then I was asked to produce a program that was sort of like what Edward R. Murrow did long ago, updated to the modern world in Los Angeles, where you would take a crew and you would go, let's say, to Sacramento. I went to Sacramento, Washington, D.C., all over California with a crew in which we would do like a screen, and my host would be doing remote with Congress people, scientists, medical people. And we did that for about a year and a half. It was really fun to do. And then I went to Boston to do all the medical programming for the ABC network there. And that was like going to medical school for 2 years, working out of Harvard Medical Children's Hospital, Mass General, on all kinds of medical, what are symptoms, what are diagnosis, what are treatments, and we did weekly shows like that with Timothy Johnson, who was the medical editor for ABC. And I was married, and my husband had gotten an undergraduate at Yale. We had met at Stanford, and then he got MBA at Harvard. That's when I was doing all the ABC WCVB work. And he was hired by Time Inc. to begin their video group. And so we were in a process of evolving, it seemed like every year, into new places and new directions as cable began to flourish and take on this huge role in both the United States and beyond. And we ended up in Denver, where they had their president of the Time Inc. division was based in Denver. And we moved there, and I was hired to be director of special projects at the CBS station. And my job there was to do a couple of documentaries, news updates, and live studio programs having to do with issues relating to Colorado and Colorado as it was affected by the United States. And one of the programs that I did before a live audience was with Colby of the CIA. And it had to do then, at that time, with national security issues that had come up in the state of Colorado, and that gives you just kind of a background. And so by 1979, I had been producing television in Los Angeles, Boston, and Denver for 11 years when the Denver Post and the Rocky Mountain News had big headlines, mutilations, animal mutilations again. And that was the word that caught my attention, because I had not really been involved in any way with the animal mutilation story until I was director of special projects at the CBS station in Denver. And it was that word again. And as soon as I realized that these bloodless, trackless deaths of all kinds of animals, not just cattle, that's what most people heard of. It was cattle and horses and goats and sheep and rabbits and on and on. And I originally thought, as a mainstream television producer who won Emmys and Ohio States and Peabody Awards and all of that, that is my career after Stanford, that I was facing something that would have to do with a United States government test of the environment, something going on like perhaps the Dugway sheep deaths that had been earlier, before 79, back in the 60s, and sheep had died because of a nerve toxin experiment by the United States, and that was a big deal. So I thought maybe this was in that category. And that is where I began to walk through what I've always called Alice in Wonderland's mirror. It wasn't that my professional ground doing mainstream media on a constant basis since graduating from Stanford, it isn't that that changed. My rules of everything that I have ever done are the same rules that journalists use at the New York Times or the Guardian or CBS or NBC. Those of us who are professional journalists, we have the same rules. You're always trying to get first-hand eyewitnesses on the record. The more multiple eyewitnesses, the stronger the credibility. You're always trying to get hard, proven, vetted documents, and on and on. Well, when I heard from Sheriff Tex Graves in northern Colorado after spending a day looking at Polaroids that he had taken himself of so many mutilated animals that were bloodless and no tracks. And he said, "Let me save you some time, Linda. The perpetrators of these animal mutilations are creatures from outer space." That was a 220-volt circuit moment for me. I wasn't prepared for that. I was still thinking it was a government testing. And here we are, 37 years later. And from that very first discussion with that sheriff and then continuing to work for 9 months with a crew and hard days, 18-hour days, and producing A Strange Harvest that was broadcast as a 90-minute special in Denver, and the response showed me in the hundreds of phone calls and perhaps 1,000 letters, because there was no computer, there were no faxes, there was only landlines and writing letters, either handwritten, typed, that sort of thing, or sending you could send a wire of money through the telegraph. But we were only in a world where the communication was basically landline phone and communication through some kind of mail, and to get 1,000 letters that were coming not just from inside the United States but from outside, I knew that I was just scratching the tip of the iceberg with A Strange Harvest, which was the accumulation of ranchers' testimonies, law enforcement testimonies, in talking to pathologists, talking to as many medical people as I could, and the bottom line being that what we were dealing with in the excisions of all these animals everywhere was something that no one had an explanation for, the cutting instrument that was cooking hemoglobin, cooking collagen, and that's why no blood. But how could there possibly be 1,700 or 2,000-pound animals lying on their side on ground that was like powder with no tracks around them, including not even their own tracks? That was the huge mystery in the so-called Snippy case of 1967. It wasn't a horse named Snippy. It was a female named Lady, but the world knows it as Snippy. And the thing was, when they did investigations, they found there was an entire 100 feet from the last hoof marks of that horse. And those hoof marks went around in a frantic circle, as if the horse was in a panic. Then there is nothing until the body that was stripped of flesh from the neck up, everything removed from the neck up, and then inside what's called the mediastinum in the chest, all of the major organs had been removed, and it was John Altshuler, M.D. He was a man who studied blood and had gone from Denver, where he was working in a hospital there, down to Southern California to see this horse. And all these many years later, from 1967 to the middle of the 1980s, that's how I met him. In fact, it was a Stanton Friedman referenced John Altshuler to me. And the first time I met him, he told me the true story that he was the anonymous doctor from Denver who had gone to see this mysterious horse stripped of flesh from the neck up. And then when he examined the horse and found that all the internal, the lungs, the heart, all of those major organs had been removed, and there was no sign of any kind of blood inside the chest. He took tissue to take it back to Denver as a pathologist and hematologist to look at it under a microscope. And he said he knew then that he was dealing with something that he couldn't understand, and later on helped me on all of the work I was trying to do. And he was the one who confirmed that we were dealing with something that could cook hemoglobin and cook collagen, and that would explain the lack of blood, but it would not explain what the cutting instrument was, because, Jimmy, we're all carbon-based life forms. And if you take heat to a carbon-based life form, you're going to have carbon residue that you can see under a microscope. And in the mutilation excisions that I gathered for him, that law enforcement had, that Dr. Altshuler in a couple of cases got himself, there was no black carbon residue that you could see under a microscope in the mutilator's excisions. You could always see it in the surgery that we would go and get. For example, if you were getting laser surgery done on a horse, then we could compare that, and there was always carbon residue in a normal laser surgery on, say, horses. Well, all of that as background to today, there's nothing, from my point of view, that has ever changed. From my point of view, I'm the same mainstream journalist, that I'm using all the same rules I've ever used, and the phenomena has proliferated and has separated itself into many categories that didn't exist in 79 to 80, such as hybrids, the issue of underground alien presence all over the planet, all the things that we've been hearing largely in just the last few years. That wasn't present.
Well,
but,
let me jump in there for a second, Linda, before we get into that, because for you, going from Stanford, which looks like Disneyland, it's nice and painted and beautiful, right? And it's its own thing, and you go through your career, and then suddenly this happens in 79.
That's right.
Was it like stepping into a black and white nightmare and just things were swirling around and you were like, holy crap, things are just not what they seem?
It was the Alice in Wonderland mirror analogy for this reason. I always think of that as a metaphor for a transition from a world that you thought was real,
right,
into a world that you would expect to be unreal,
right.
But when you pass through the mirror and you now understand that you're being lied to,
right,
that the government is lying, that authorities are lying, that is the big transformation, the paradigm shift for somebody who grew up with a world that seemed so normal, and everything progressed in steps that just were expected. Now I am dealing with UFOs, ETs, mutilating animals around this planet, and it is something that, when I say 220-volt shock,
right,
that was my first reaction. And that it was a physical impact when the sheriff said, Linda, the perpetrators are creatures from outer space. Today, I always think of that, Jimmy, when I am with a whole lot of people or at conferences or someplace where you feel like you must edit. And every time I find myself editing, I think with compassion to FDR and Harry Truman and Dwight Eisenhower, who were the first to hit all this, like I hit it in the sheriff's office, or with the sheriff. He had retired, so it wasn't the sheriff's office, but it was the sheriff retired. And that you realize that you can be shocked by new information that revolutionizes your thinking about everything you've been taught. That's the Alice in Wonderland mirror. And since then, I have found myself trying to help so many people in the human abduction syndrome who have contacted me and many others to say, I don't know what's happening to me, but... And then for a person like myself and Leo Sprinkle and others who have heard so many, hundreds of these cases, you realize something is going on among the human population that was not given any credence until, let's say, Missing Time and A Strange Harvest and the work that some of us began doing in 1980, and that before then, nobody would even much bring it up except for Betty and Barney Hill.
Right.
That was a famous world-class investigation. It was handled correctly. Benjamin Simon was a first-class psychiatrist. He did the hypnosis the way it should be done. He kept them separated so that the husband and wife could not contaminate each other. And when John Fuller brought this to everybody's attention in the very well done book, An Interrupted Journey, then it made the cover of Life magazine.
Right.
And that Betty and Barney Hill became associated with something that most people did not want to be real, but these were respected people, and they had tremendous amounts of support by people that they work with in their community. They were both extremely active and involved with things both political as well as their own profession. And that when human abduction got added to the concept that we could have something from outer space interacting here with the Earth, that was something that in 1961 to 79, that was 61 to 7, that was almost 2 full decades before I ever knew anything about animal mutilations, but it was the animal mutilations that led me straight to my own interactions with people who said that they had had a beam of light come down in their bedroom and it might be out on a ranch, and then suddenly I'm in the human abduction syndrome. And both of those combined with a lot of physical evidence leads you directly to the whole, how has the government of the United States kept all of the facts away from a democratic public since World War II at least. And then you start getting into the aspects that pilots, when they were off the record, would talk to me and to others about all of the interactions that they have had with lights and with electromagnetic interference in planes. It is a big subject, a bigger subject than I think most people in the public realize.
I agree.
And that the physics of what we are dealing with, things that could be either right in front of people and they couldn't see them, but they could see plants or trees moving, and they couldn't see anything making plants and trees moving, meaning it's not wind, isolated motion. People who said, I remember interviewing when I was still at Channel 7 in Denver after A Strange Harvest of broadcasts. I got a phone call from a family, and they said, we saw your film A Strange Harvest, and we want you to know that we are a family who saw something flying in the air. We all saw it. We were all out front, and it disappeared. This was my introduction to the physics of invisibility. It doesn't mean that the matter object has literally disappeared, but it means that there are technologies that are associated with alien phenomena in which the technology can make an object invisible. And today, in 2016, Northrop Grumman has had, in the past year, a commercial advertisement on television showing how they now can take one of our huge battleships and make it disappear.
Right.
To some. And I think it is non-human technology that we have back-engineered, and that non-human technology is all over the planet. Well, when you then ask the question about what my relationship is to what is out there in the world having to do with an alien presence here throughout the solar system and beyond, my answer is exactly the same. I have always been an investigative reporter, producer, writer, director, editor who has been trying to understand what could possibly be mutilating animals around this entire planet since at least the beginning of the 20th century, and do it with all of the physical and forensic evidence that has been documented, and why. And that today I have insights into that. I think it is a genetic harvest. I don't think that is the only answer. I think we're dealing with a complexity of phenomena because we're dealing with a complexity of agendas by intelligences that have been interacting with terraforming and harvesting from this planet for a very long time. I think the last time that I was on with you in Fade to Black, that I was referencing that man who had been in the Defense Intelligence Agency and worked for about a month to set up a meeting with me in Baltimore. And he had retired from the DIA after 23 years of what he said, this were his terms, of monitoring and analyzing the geopolitical, territorial conflict of 3 different extraterrestrial biological entity civilizations interacting with planet Earth. That is a big mouthful, and that's how he said it. And that the reason...
Let me jump in really quick, because we're gonna hit a break here in 60 seconds. But you can answer this very simply. Prior to 1979, Linda, had you ever seen anything strange in the sky up to that point? What was a UFO to you before 1979?
My father, Chet Moulton, was director of aeronautics for the state of Idaho from around 1946 to his retirement in 1976, I think. And his job as director of aeronautics was to go out at plane crashes and gather up the bodies and do investigations. And one of the pilots in the state of Idaho that helped my father was Kenneth Arnold.
No.
The one and the same Kenneth Arnold, who reported the 9, I'm going to say they were plan forms. They were curved. They were not circular. They were not discs. They were not triangles. They were a very odd curved thing. And I remember to this day sitting on the floor in Kenneth Arnold's house.
Shut up. Linda, you never told me this before.
I'm absolutely telling you the truth. And my father is sitting talking with his friend, and this was after my father was arguing with Kenneth Arnold that there weren't extraterrestrials, there wasn't other life, so that Kenneth Arnold must have misunderstood what he saw. And I still can remember that, not knowing that my life would take the path that it eventually did. But I've never forgotten that. And in fact, Kenneth Arnold's daughter, who was there, called me about 10 years ago to say, "Do you remember me?"
Yeah, hold on. Let me jump in right there. I got to take a break. We're going to finish this because you've just blown my mind once again, Linda. We'll pick it up on the backside. Our guest tonight, the one and only Linda Moulton Howe. This is Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. We'll be right back.
This is Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
The station that talks the net. KGRA Radio.
Hello, I'm Katie, and you're listening to my main man, Jimmy Church, on jimmychurchradio.com.
Hi, this is Ray Hobbs here, repping the planet, and you're listening to my good friend, Jimmy Church, Fade to Black, on the Game Changer Network and the KGRA Digital Broadcast Station.
Fade or not, things are never what they seem. For the past century, forbidden subjects such as UFOs, backward engineering, human abductions, secret space programs, underground bases, suppressed free energy devices, and other fantastic notions have tested the human mind, forcing it to decipher fact from fiction. Chronicling what he calls the alternative narrative, author Brad Olson gets down to the middle of it all in his best-selling book, Future Esoteric, now released in a second edition by CCC Publishing. And now, you can get Future Esoteric at a special price, plus another free book by just using the promo code Jimmy when you check out. Just click on the Future Esoteric or CCC Publishing banner at jimmychurchradio.com. Go Beckley Teppy. IRA and 401k account holders, are you crossing your fingers for the stock market to continue its bull run? Or hoping for a miracle to pay off our $19 trillion national debt? American Bullion wants you to think for a moment. If we go through another significant stock market correction and things begin to unravel, you could suffer some serious losses. On the other hand, gold is a proven long-term asset that could hedge and protect your retirement accounts from getting washed away. Call American Bullion now and let them show you how easy it is to transfer your existing IRA or roll over your 401k into a gold IRA. American Bullion has an A-plus rating with the Better Business Bureau and is a leader in gold IRAs. With just one call, their experts can explain everything there is to know and get you started with a free gold IRA guide. Call 1-800-545-2525. Don't procrastinate. Save your retirement. Call American Bullion now at 1-800-545-2525. That's 1-800-545-2525.
This is Toby Kebbell. You're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com. Don't hurt me, Jimmy. I'm only little.
Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier. And this is Ari Gold. We're the Honey Brothers. Yes. We are of the Honey Brothers. Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier. And I'm Ari Gold. We're the Honey Brothers. And you're listening to Jimmy Church. The Revolution.
What's up, Fadernauts? Studio Dome loves Fade to Black and the F2B audience so much that they have put together the ultimate stereo Bluetooth system. They've done it just for you. Man, check this out. The Studio Dome SBB2 stereo system is here. It's featuring two Studio Boombox 2 SBB2 wireless Bluetooth speakers, packed in its own custom hardshell case. This Studio Dome system features the very latest in stereo Bluetooth technology. The two full-range boomboxes are in true wireless stereo. You've got to hear this. It's amazing. It's just $129 and use the promo code JCRTWS and you'll also get free shipping. It's simple. Just go to jimmychurchradio.com, click on the Studio Dome banner. Go Beckley Tepe.
This is Micah Hanks of the Gralien Report, and you're listening to Jimmy Church on Fade to Black, across the globe on the Game Changer Radio Network and the one and only KGRA Radio, The Planet.
All right, welcome back, Fade to Black. Our guest tonight, Linda Moulton Howe, the one and only. I don't know how she managed it, but she just, I'm speechless, Linda. I don't know how you did it. So you're sitting in Kenneth Arnold's house with your father, and you get the lowdown.
Well, I can remember, even though then I couldn't have been much more than in first or second grade. I was born in January of 1942.
Right.
Kenneth Arnold's experience over the mountains in Washington was June 24th, 1947. And so in 48, I would have been 6 years old and in first grade. And I have sort of a feeling about being old enough to be like I'm on the floor and his daughter, like when you're kids and you're maybe playing cards, but you're listening to your parents. That's the way that I'm remembering this. And so I think we were old enough to be in first or second grade, and it would make sense because my father was arguing hard. That's the part. Emotionally, I knew my father was arguing with his friend, Kenneth Arnold, and we're in Kenneth Arnold's house. And that it left an impression that my father was arguing, and I knew that it had to do something about other life and ETs or something, what they were talking about. So this would have been after all of the publicity, all of the stuff that would have happened from June of 47, let's say to 48, 49, somewhere in there. That would explain that my father had heard a lot and there'd been all that publicity, and that would have provoked some argument. My dad was very left brain, extremely brilliant, And he was a person who didn't entertain ideas that were outside of what his version of the universe and what he had been taught. And that was, for him, for my father, the Kenneth Arnold story was too much. But Kenneth Arnold was a good friend, and that is a combination that as a kid you remember that kind of, I guess you would say, where they're friends, but that my dad was arguing.
Wow.
Well, later on,
I can actually top that story. When I was 5 years old, my dad took me over to Paul McCartney's house, and I was lying on the floor, and my dad and Paul were arguing, and Paul was telling my dad that he sang all of John's tracks, that John really wasn't a singer. And I barely remember the conversation. But, no, see, that didn't happen, Linda, but that's how big of a story that is. That's a mind-blowing experience.
And it kind of has a kicker to it. By 1979, I have been working successfully as a professional TV producer since graduating from Stanford in '68. So it was 11 years. 11 years I've been successful in doing science and medicine and the environment, as I said earlier in the first part of the program. And I always stayed very close in touch with my mom and dad. I always talked with them 2 or 3 times a week, no matter where I was in the world. And so I had called up to talk with them about this new project that I was getting into, these strange animals, and told my father that I had been up to interview Sheriff Tex Graves, and he told me that extraterrestrials were mutilating these animals. Like, Dad, listen to this. And my father, even then, in '79, said, don't do this, don't do this. This will ruin your credibility in your career. That was my father, who had argued with Kenneth Arnold. And I said to my dad, it's the same thing I've said in interviews with reporters since, I am exactly the same person and mind who has done all this other work, and there is something substantial here in the environment that is affecting all these animals around the world, and it needs to be investigated and reported. And so that's what I said to my dad, and I went ahead and A Strange Harvest was broadcast, and we were talking about the impact that it had. Well, my father passed in 1993, and I think it was about 5-10 years before that. I remember it was sometime in one of his phone calls. He said to me on the phone, I am proud that you kept going in this difficult subject, because I think that what you've reported is fact. That was from my father. And after that whole arc from around 48 to the warning in 79, and then at the end, having seen all that I had reported and all the television I had done, my father conceded that he, too, had come to the conclusion that in this big, vast universe, that there were other life forms, and that ties directly, Jimmy, to the August 24th, those big headlines, the build-up to the European Southern Observatory, that it was having its press conference on the morning, our morning, on the 24th. And when you went to the website, which I did because I signed up as a reporter, it was at the German offices, and here they were announcing that they had found what they called, these are the words, definitive evidence of a planet in orbit around our closest star to Earth, besides the Sun, and they were featuring Proxima Centauri, and it's 4.2 light years from Earth. They discovered, by what the New York Times did, I thought, an extremely good description of this, because we don't have any picture of a planet. But what they do is they detect this indirectly. They are studying the light of the star. The star is Proxima Centauri, and so they zero in on these wobbles around the star and the starlight. They've been doing this now for several years, and that's how we get this long list of possible Earth-like planets. And as these colors shift, and they go to the reddish end of the spectrum, and then they go blue, that means that there is change in distance. This is the wobble, the oscillations. And as they're causing this bobbing back and forth motion of the star, it's being pulled around by the gravity of this planet. And this is why they feel so confident that by the sizes of these wobbles, that they are calling this planet Proxima b, and it is, they think, 1.3 times the mass of Earth, but that's pretty close to the size of our Earth.
Sure.
And it could be larger, but let's just say it's 1.3 times the mass of our planet. It's pretty much the size. They are now, from other tests that they've done, they think it's a rocky planet, and they think that there is the I'm going to put the word likelihood or strong possibility that at the distance that it is to this and its star, the star itself is a red dwarf. And that means it puts out different light and is less intense than our yellow sun. But the combination of the distance from the planet to this sun with a lower temperature, it is like the Abraham Loeb. He's the astronomy chair at Harvard University. And that morning of this ESO press conference, he said to reporters, quote, "This means that the lifetime of Proxima Centauri would be several trillion years, almost 1,000 times longer than the remaining lifetime of our sun. And we have a sun now that might survive another 5 billion years. So they're talking about this red dwarf might go on for several trillion years.
Right.
And he says a habitable rocky planet around Proxima Centauri would be the most natural location to where our civilization could aspire to move after our sun will die 5 billion years from now. And what they're suggesting is that why there's an excitement, we're in a solar system that will have an end, like other solar systems around yellow stars that reach a point where the yellow star begins to expand. It's hard to imagine, but this will occur, that the sun, 93 million miles from us now, will eventually, as the 5 billion next years go, it will expand past where the Earth is, the sun. It will get bigger and bigger, and everything will be incinerated. Well, if this has happened in other areas of this cosmos, and there have been life forms, all life forms would be challenged by the planet and the type of sun that they have life on or bases on, because everything in this universe has cycles of birth, life, and death. This is a universe that seems to be built on entropy, the winding down of energy. So the next big excitement, I think...
Well, hold on with the big excitement stuff. A couple of things for me. Number one, didn't the Robinson family on Lost in Space go to Alpha Centauri? I'm just saying.
Alpha Centauri has been discussed probably more in movies and television and everything else as a place where things would be going,
right.
Let's say sci-fi, because it is the closest. It's only
the closest.
4.2 light years.
And how is it, Linda? You know, Kepler's been out there, Hubble's been out there shooting. How is it, and I know the way you think, how is the closest star with the closest planet the last one that we find? Should it have been the first one that we looked at?
Well, it's a very interesting question, and it leads to that whole issue where the government has had the most knowledge of something that might fall into the category of other life. They have been working so hard since World War II to keep the media and the public in the dark.
Right.
And there may be logical reasons. I have compassion. I have sincere compassion for the people in the FDR, Truman, and Eisenhower and JFK administrations. But they may have known about this for a long time. And it may be, Jimmy, that we're hearing all of this coming at the same time with what? That we are moving into interstellar craft.
Yes, we are.
This is on us. When I did an interview with Professor Lubin, it was April 5th, 2016, and this is one of the more interesting stories I have ever done, and this was Philip Lubin. He's a professor of physics. He's in the experimental cosmology group at the University of California, Santa Barbara, and he is in the Starshot campaign that Elon Musk and Microsoft and all these people are getting behind, is the idea that we must now start trying to use laser photon light on a project. It may get off as soon as 2020. That'd be 4 years from now. 2021, that's 5 years from now, where they have he calls it a small 4-inch diameter wafer size, that's what they're calling them, wafer size spacecraft. And the idea is that you have the lasers maybe on Hawaii or maybe on a peninsula or maybe even on the moon, because then there wouldn't be atmosphere to go through the laser light. If we could ever get something constructed on the moon, it would make this laser propulsion perhaps easier. But the idea is that you've got a frequency that the wafer little crap that's inside of a protective shield, that the whole thing might not be more than 18, 24, 30 inches in diameter, maybe max 1 meter diameter. And the lasers, probably plural, their goal will be the photons will push against this wafer-sized spacecraft with the goal of getting the spacecraft going at 25 to 30% the speed of light. And he used what I think is a nice analogy. When you think of throwing a ball, for example, your hand is holding a ball, and you wind up, your muscles and your bones are in your body. When you throw a ball, you're transferring the motion of your body into that ball. You don't stay with the ball. You're not traveling with the ball, but you give it the energy. You throw it for a fraction of a second, then it's gone from your hand and your muscles, and it keeps on going for a distance. So you're not having to push this wafer craft from here to Alpha Centauri or to Proxima Centauri. You're pushing it by light, photon energy, with the idea of getting it moving at 25 to 30% of the speed of light. And if we do this...
What are we looking at time-wise?
The trip at, let's say, 25 or 30%, where you've got 4.2 light years from Earth to the Proxima Centauri. If you could go at, say, a quarter of the speed of light, you could get there in 17, 18 years.
That's it?
Yeah, and see, that now is, look at the lifetimes that a scientist would have spent studying Mars or any one of our planets. And this means this is a doable research project. You get, and this the idea, he was using a metaphor that all of us could understand. If you look at how sophisticated your iPhone is and how much information it can give you about the weather, even about electromagnetic fields, all of the apps that you can get in your iPhone.
Right.
It can give you so much data, and it's operating on a GPS and all of that. Well, take that, put it inside of the shield that's about no more than a meter wide, and you get that going at 25 to 30% the speed of light, and you're headed out to Alpha Centauri, you're going to get a data stream, and that's the question, because there's a round trip. That's one way. Well, he set in my mind on fire by saying, but we don't think that this will be just a singular reaching out to get data starting back to the Earth 17 years later. He said, I think what makes sense is we will keep increasing our ability to work with lasers so that photons can push at higher and higher rates. Let's say you get up to 50, 60% of the speed of light. Then you could have a wave as say 20 years go by, and you kept making new and they're traveling faster. You could end up perhaps having a wafer craft that would pass the one that was launched in 2021. And it might have the ability to return or send signals or something. So our advancement in these technologies would continue working as we keep sending craft with the idea of finally getting data back for the long-haul goal. What if something happens? Well, let's say we get a colony on Mars, so now we're on 2 planets, and maybe we get mining operations on Ceres, and Homo sapiens is moving into the solar system, and we're not completely all on Earth. But as things evolve with the sun, there would come a point where for humanity to survive in the solar system, we'd have to have another planet. Well, the closest is, right now, that's what they're saying, Proxima Centauri with Proxima b. And that we would be learning during the rest of this century from these wafer craft and other technologies about what this planet is like, what that system is like, and this is what we would call the beginning of the general public's relationship to interstellar travel. But Jimmy, you and I and others, we have had dialogues with William Moulton Tompkins, the guy who's had a book come out with Robert Wood, who says that he was a naval flight engineer during World War II, had this ability to do scale models from photographs that he was shown, and this was his talent,
right.
And that he was shown photographs in the 40s, 50s of what we would call UFOs, and they could be cylinders, they could be spheres, they could be discs like lenses, they could be the delta shape, they could be all kinds of shapes, and he would do these scale models. And he said that's how he learned that there were at least 3 different non-human civilizations involved with this planet, that he would support what has been described as the alien presence, meaning an alien presence is here. It's not coming and going. It's here, but it's underground, and that it's been here for a very long time, and that it isn't the only alien presence that our government has had knowledge about, that there are other competing factions, there are allies, there are trade routes, and that whole concept of ongoing trade routes that would be both in the Milky Way galaxy and, he said, beyond, fits into what Lynn Buchanan told John Burroughs and me in our Phenomena Radio interview 1 year ago in the fall of 2015. And he had been a remote viewer at Fort Meade with the talented group that was there working for the Defense Intelligence Agency next door to the NSA in the 80s. And Lynn had more than one tasking on what turned out to be issues having to do with other life in this universe. And one of his taskings, they don't know what it is they're remote viewing at the time. It's later that they learn, they get reality checks on what it is that they have remote viewed.
Right.
And one of them was to remote view, he called them friendly ETs that are psychic, friendly ETs that are not psychic, unfriendly ETs that are psychic, and unfriendly ETs that are not psychic. And he said the unfriendly ETs that are psychic are the ones that are the most dangerous, and that there is something out there that does not like humanity on this planet and would like to see us erased. And you can fit that into the Anunnaki or whatever you want to fit it into. I'm just talking about the general remote viewing he did.
Right.
And that the encouraging part of Lynn Buchanan's remote viewing task was that there are allies, that there are a lot of allies, and that the allies are extremely supportive and interested in what humans produce on this planet, like we would be very interested in what non-humans were producing on other planets. And suddenly, can't you just imagine, I don't know when it will happen in this century, but the idea that a silversmith in Santa Fe, New Mexico, might be able to trade his production of beautiful silver jewelry to something out there on a planet somewhere else, and that planet was trading with Earth. That is what Lynn Buchanan says is happening, and that what William Mills Tompkins said, that there are already established trade routes, but the government doesn't want anybody to know because they have never opened up the truth about our relationship to our own history on this planet, let alone the history in this solar system and in the Milky Way galaxy, and that we have been fed a lot of trumped-up stuff for a very long time, going back to the Anunnaki and other civilizations on this planet, that Tom DeLonge.
Right.
Tom DeLonge
let's
Greeks,
hold on,
Greeks
Linda.
and the Anunnaki were ETs.
Hold on. That's a perfect spot to take a break. We got to do it right here. Our guest tonight, Linda Moulton Howe. I don't know how she does it, but she makes me speechless. That's because she's the one and only Linda Moulton Howe. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. This is Fade to Black. More with Linda right after this short break. You stay right there.
Way out here, we listen to Jimmy Church.
You're listening to Fade to Black.
Always on the edge of the hottest alternative talk. Jimmy Church with Fade to Black. KGRARadio.com.
¿Qué tal, mis amigos? Yo soy Mario Carson, el tiburón, y los invito para que escuchen a mi buen amigo Jimmy Church Radio. ¡Claro que sí!
FoodForLiberty.com sells high-quality, storable foods from Numana. And right now, take advantage of our summer special. Purchase 2 family packs and we'll send you a Pro Pure Water Pitcher, a $70 value, free. This premium pitcher is ideal for use with just about any water source and removes more contaminants than other brands. And it comes with a filter that lasts up to 2 full years. Whether you need to be prepared in the event of an emergency, you're an outdoor sports enthusiast, best. New Manna is known for high-quality, great-tasting, GMO-free, super nutritious food with no chemical preservatives. And with a 25-year shelf life, you can't beat the feeling of being food secure when you need it most. Go to foodforliberty.com right now for great-tasting, high-quality, storable foods from New Manna. Buy 2 family packs and get the Pro Pure water pitcher free. It makes good sense to be prepared. Get it at foodforliberty.com.
Did you ever turn to your radio for your favorite talk show to find that it's been preempted for this?
In the air to deep right center. Back goes Lewis to the wall, and it's out of here!
Or this?
And I'm ashamed of you, Hillary, for voting for it.
Do you have a favorite talk radio program that's not available in your city? Just go to TalkStreamLive.com for links to the best streaming talk radio shows. At TalkStream Live, you will find live talk shows 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. All your favorites are here. With such a large selection, you will also discover some new favorites. On the go and still want to listen? With a mobile smartphone, simply type TalkStream Live on your internet browser. Now you can take internet radio with you. You will also find hundreds of music, news, and sports streams. Best of all, the TalkStream Live directory is free and there's never a login required. Remember TalkStreamLive.com, the fastest route between you and your favorite talk radio show.
You are listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Network.
Oi, oi, I'm Reese Evans. You're listening to Jimmy Church. This is Revolution. The revolution will not be televised. The revolution is on radio. Ciao.
Welcome back to Fade to Black. Our guest tonight, Linda Moulton Howe. And we are talking about, well, a variety of things, but we're also talking about Proxima B and the ability to get to there from here. And Linda, one of the things, I want to go back to a point that you made right before the break, and I think it's an interesting one. It's 4.2 light years away. But the most important thing for all of us to grasp about Proxima B is that there is no planet closer to us than that one. There's no way. It is the closest star. And if it's 4.2 light years away with our current technology and being able to theoretically get there in 15 or 17 years, closing in on the speed of light, it's only 4 years away. That's it. And if there's a way to travel faster than that, literally, if there is any life on that planet, they could be here literally in the blink of an eye. And that answers a lot of questions for us, doesn't it?
Well, I agree with Jacques Vallée on this. He and I had a lot of discussions that on Earth, we're not dealing with something that is coming and going and coming and going. We have an alien presence. It's probably plural, meaning competing factions, exactly as the DIA guy told me in December of 1999.
Sure.
But the source origin, and that is always put a capital S and a capital O. What is the source origin of anything we're ever dealing with? And the source origin of life, wherever it could be, that is the big question. Who exactly is here? Whose planet is Earth from their perception?
Right.
We appear, by everything that is being told to human abductees and government whistleblowers, Homo sapien sapien and Neanderthalensis and a bunch of the standing up primates on this Earth, were the manipulation of DNA in already evolving primates to create us specifically. And the Anunnaki issue of them being from where? According to Sitchin, according to Chris Hardy in her new book, The Wars of the Anunnaki, Zeta Reticuli 1 and 2 is focused as the source origin of the Anunnaki as well. Zeta Reticuli 1 and 2, Betty and Barney Hill.
Betty and Barney Hill, right.
Yeah, Zeta Reticuli 1 and 2, the Anunnaki. Zeta Reticuli 1 and 2 is Anthony Sanchez's Air Force colonel talking about his work at Dulce under base, and that was supposed to be tied in to what we would call the tall pales or Anunnaki. And so you get facets of what seems like the same big story, and that if these tall pales and Zeta Reticuli 1 and 2 millions of years ago got into a war with another life form in their same solar system, and that they were grays, and that the tall pales were harvesting genetic material from grays on another planet to do what? To make servile, I'm going to say, hybrids, clones, make something that they probably would add their genes to make whatever it was that they wanted to serve them, be able to communicate and all of that. That we're talking about the same issue that everybody has described in the abduction syndrome on Earth. ETs manipulating DNA and already evolving primates here to create a slave race that would do physical work on this planet because the evolving life form would be adapted to the oxygen, nitrogen, carbon dioxide air that we breathe, and that Anthony Sanchez's colonel and even Helen Luttrell in Rachel's Eyes about her daughter living with a hybrid, they had the same thing, that the non-humans don't do as well in our atmosphere, our gravity, but that there is some huge need to escape from something, and where the Anthony Sanchez story and the Helen Luttrell story come together and support the Chris Hardy Wars of the Anunnaki, is that everything goes to Zeta Reticuli 1 and 2 as the source origin, where there was this war between grays and tall pales, without giving any more details on the tall pales because it's not clear, and that it was over the harvesting of genetic material to make slaves. Same story, different solar system, different time in the past, but that it could be exactly the same issue here today. And somehow the way this whole, as we're beginning to understand more and more about this cosmos, it seems like everything continues to repeat in cycles. Do you have that feeling?
I do. And I kind of want to stay on point here, and we're going to come back to this, but also related to this is what a couple of comments from Tom DeLong last night, and I kind of want to visit that just a little bit. But,
yeah.
But you were at Contact in the Desert with this last time around, and you know about the sightings that were there and that what I had seen. Did you have the opportunity to see what was going on in the skies over Contact?
You know, those nights people were taking me to dinner. I think every single night after I finished my work, somebody was taking me into Joshua Tree to talk about different facets of different things. And this was where the other 2 or 3 contacts, there was the sky at night more. I was with people. It was very interesting, and I don't regret it. But so I missed your live experience. Maybe you could recount it, and then I could talk to you about my own investigations of these lights.
Well, and I know that you've been doing that. So let's visit my experience very briefly, because your research is it's much more important. But what, and just, I'm going to give you the abridged version. It was after the George Norrie party. So it was at 9 o'clock, right at then, because we had to, the reason why I know it was 9, because they were changing out the tables for the dance floor, right? So it ended at 9 o'clock. And at that moment, Rita got a text saying there's stuff going on in the skies. You got to get down here. And so we go out, and security tells us where to go. And the bungalows where you and I and everybody is staying, right down that road. Yeah. So if you take that road, Linda, down to it ends at Orion's Lookout, which is a cliff. Right. So we go down. People come out and grab us. And we go down, and there's about 150 people there or so. It's really dark. And I see a few different things, but the main point of for me was this green chrome ball, like a Christmas ornament, and it's about 3 miles away to my left. And it's taking off. I see it with my naked eye. It's large, whatever it is. It's 2 miles away, and I can see that it's a chrome ball, so it's big. And it's taking off to my left, up, and eventually, after about 5 minutes, it turns into just a pinprick of light. But I'm watching it through my naked eyes and through night vision. And then it stops. Like right above me at like 12 o'clock. Now it's become a star, right? It's just a little dot of light. And then it sits there for maybe 30 seconds, and then takes off to the left at a 90-degree angle and goes off into space. Now, that's what I saw. I know it sounds crazy. I know it sounds nuts, Linda.
No.
But that's what I saw.
It's not crazy at all. In the 1990s, there were many, many reports from eyewitnesses in the Valley of Hessdalen. This is an area in northeastern Norway. And they were reporting flickering, pulsing spheres of light that changed shape, did 90-degree angles, did all kinds of things, to the point that finally, the first time, I think it was 1984, there were Norwegian engineers. There was a professor, Erling Strand. He put together something called Project Hessdalen. And they went to watch, see, measure, videotape, whatever they could. And then they went back with another science team later in 1998, and they got video frames of these lights moving up in the mountains in real time. And the research really became serious in about August 2000 and August 2001, and that's when they brought in Italian astrophysicists that joined these Norwegian engineers, and they brought in radio spectrum analyzers, videotape, spectroscopes, all kinds of cameras, and they could break down sort of everything that they were seeing, monitoring, measuring as what they said were 95% thermal plasmas. I'm reading from the report. Right. And 5% unidentified solid objects. Now, the plasmas emitted long-wave radio frequencies, but strangely, the temperatures did not vary with the change in the size or brightness. And when I did an interview with Massimo Teodorani, he's a PhD astrophysicist from the Naples Observatory in Bologna, Italy, he was talking about that. Here's a direct quote. If I take the spectrum and I plot the spectrum in a flux wavelength of one of these lights, that spectrum resembles a typical Max Planck curve, which is of a cocktail of ions and electrons. And we can also measure the temperature, and the temperature was, in that case, on this one light, they watched it for 90 minutes. It was stationary, and it sustained a temperature of 6,500 Kelvin degrees. Now, they didn't have any idea what could possibly be small. They never thought these were bigger than about a softball, maybe a cantaloupe, but no bigger. Just think of that as suspended in the air.
Right.
And I went with them the next year. I was there in 2002 for a week with the same group, the Norwegian engineers, Teodorani, and a group out of Bologna, Italy. It was amazing. And every single night we were seeing these strange, some of them sometimes would look like flickering mirrors, exactly like what I have seen with my own eyes in the fields in England at crop formation time. And then some of them would be more what you'd call spherical light-like. There were motions, stops, and the whole time that we were doing this live up there, and I was running my own camera and interviewing them and all of that, one night after we had seen several strange lights and they had gotten several of these recorded in spectroscopic frames and so forth, we would get back to where we were staying, usually at what would be 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the local time, but it was summer. And so the sky would remain a yellow orchid. It never got dark.
Right.
And so the only way that circadian rhythms we'd stay up. Usually everybody'd have a glass of wine. We'd be staying up. The shades would be drawn so we were not distracted by the yellow orchid light outside, which was very beautiful. And we would talk until you would get sleepy finally, and then you could sleep because we knew we were going to be doing this every night, so your whole circadian thing was off. But those discussions, after we would get back, were so fascinating. And it was like in the third or fourth night that Dr. Teodorani said to me, Linda, I really am convinced that we are dealing with intelligent thermal plasmas of unknown origin. And when I wrote about this, that was the one of the quotes that I used from him. And that we all then talked about what could be placing a plasma technology on this planet to upload and download information, which was the discussions we had. Plasma is throughout the universe. Suns are made of plasma, lightning is made of plasma, but it is still one of the most mysterious things to Earth scientists. And the idea, as Dr. Teodorani said that night, that he could imagine with advanced technology that you could program plasmas with zeros and ones, meaning that they could operate like a computer.
Right.
To gather information that could be uploaded to something with downloaded instructions. So these particular, we'll call them thermal plasmas of unknown origin in Hessdalen, could have been, from his point of view, in the category of technology placed on Earth from, and there comes the question, from where, how far, why. Some people would argue, well, maybe it's the alien presence that's always been underground on this planet manipulating the surface life, and they're the ones who do this. But the Zeta Reticuli 1 and 2 that has come up in these multiple whistleblowers, you have to go back to Betty and Barney Hill. You have to look at the work that Marjorie Fish did, that amateur astronomer.
Oh, yeah, right.
Yeah, and she made, when all that time making the three-dimensional model of this particular part of, we'll call it our little arm in the Milky Way galaxy, where our sun, I believe, if I'm remembering Astronomy magazine correctly, I believe within 35 or 40 light years. I know that there are other statistics out to 50, but I think this was closer. Maybe it was because Zeta Reticuli 1 and 2, we now know is about 39 light years, and the Astronomy magazine article that I'm thinking of, we thought it was 37 light years. So I think that they were talking about within 40 years there were 19 yellow stars that were very similar to our sun, as if you planted a garden and God's hand just happened to make 19 yellow suns all within 40 light years of each other. Well, that was established by Marjorie Fish, amateur astronomer, doing all that work, making a three-dimensional model with wires and string and beads.
A school teacher.
This brilliant woman. And that what was her whole inspiration was the map that Betty Hill drew under hypnosis with Benjamin Simon in all of the, I think they worked for a couple of years of him working with Betty and Barney separate. And in one of the hypnosis sessions where she is remembering vividly, communicating with a gray-skinned, she thought the eyes were goggles. This was not one of those where everybody thinks it's one of the gray heads that these big organic eyes. She thought they were goggles and sketched him with a hat on of some sort, which may or may not have been technology gear as well. But he, this leader, I think she called him the leader in her story, took her in this craft, in this room, to what she said looked like a three-dimensional star map, and started saying or asking her. He asked her, "Do you know where you are here?" And she answered, "No, I'm not an astronomer. I don't know anything about it." Well, and I think it was his answer was to do this because she said, "Where are you from?" And so now he's having her stand in front of this three-dimensional star map, and he said, well, if you don't know where you are on this map, how could I possibly explain to you where we're from? And that was one of the famous dialogues around this map that Betty drew that had what she said in the hypnosis were trade routes. And the trade routes, they were heavy lines drawn between Zeta Reticuli 1 and 2, those stars, and then there were trade routes that went out to what Marjorie Fish identified as Tau Ceti, Epsilon Eridani, Epsilon Bootes. These are some of these yellow suns that we're talking about. And our sun is on that map, but it is dotted line to the sun from Zeta Reticuli 1 and 2, and she understood that it was an exploration route more than trade in 61. Well, that was at least what Betty Hill took away from that experience there. Zeta Reticuli 1 and 2 is the most referenced possible origin source of just about anything outside of World War II. Then if you go to World War II and Hitler saying that he was going to populate the earth with tall, blonde Aryans and eliminate the Hebrews, and that his inspiration for everything he was doing were extraterrestrials from the star system, Aldebaran, some people say, or there are different pronunciations. But that was actual history behind World War II.
The idea behind that for Betty, I think everybody needs to do a little bit of research, but take me at my word right now. We hadn't at that point looked out behind the sun and even found Zeta Reticuli yet. Marjorie Fish built the star map, and all of this was later confirmed in the late 60s when we finally had satellites that were going out and checking out the solar system. And that's the crazy part for me with Betty, was that she didn't have any concept or any way to draw this and and hoax it, fake it. And that's what was interesting. It was all confirmed by technology that happened in 1970, even for Marjorie Fish.
I think it is true that we didn't know much about, and I was just trying to see if I could get the astronomy version on the first discovery. I've got Zeta Reticuli.
I'll do it right now.
It's this wide binary star system. I know it's the widest system, the biggest separation between two stars that our astronomers still call a binary star system known. And that the distance now from Earth to Zeta Reticuli 1 and 2 is now put at 39 light years, not 37. And in terms of its discovery, that's the key. That sometimes you get history that'll give you discovery, and in this particular Wikipedia, it does not give the date of discovery, which is something we all should now try to find out what exactly is the reality check on the discovery.
Yeah, and our Telstar and some of the satellites that we finally started to get up and that were examining what was behind the sun and so forth, because before then we didn't have anything to go out and see what was out there, and to confirm the star map and what Marjorie Fish was putting together. It wasn't confirmed, like I said, by our technology till much, much later, which, goes back to those hypnosis sessions and what Betty had seen. I remember the whole aha moment for me was just like, Betty could not have known this unless it was shown to her.
And also, even though some people attack it, I personally think there's a lot of truth in the Project Serpo material that began to come out. And of the Project Serpo, the whole thing is based on an alleged group that went from Earth to a planet in the Zeta Reticuli 1 and 2 system from Earth, and that it is said this is what Spielberg and Ronald Reagan, when they had the screening of the Encounters movie for Reagan, and that Reagan allegedly said to Steven Spielberg, "You and I may be the only two people in this room who know how true this movie is." You've heard that.
Oh, yes.
It's become apocryphal.
Right.
Well, the issue of a group of humans getting on we'll use the word alien, non-human technology craft, and being taken to a planet in the Zeta Reticuli 1 and 2 binary star system for, they were supposed to be gone X amount of time, and something happened, and they ended up staying there much longer, and that there was an exchange program. That was the description. An exchange program where some of the Zeta Reticuli 1 and 2 stayed here, and we went there, and that is what the whole Serpo material is about.
We're going to take a break right here, Linda. When we come back, I want to get back to Norway and the plasma and possibly a connection with what we and others saw out at Contact. I don't know how to explain it, Linda. I think you can help me out, and we'll do it right after this short break. Stay with us.
Hi everybody, this is Rob Halford, the Metal Guard on JimmyChurchRadio.com.
KGRA Radio. Intelligent talk.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7, with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on the smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
Are you tired of brown rust stains on your toilets, sinks, and clothes? Does your water smell and taste bad? Don't live with these problems anymore. HydroCare's revolutionary well water systems, available at Wave Home Solutions, gives you clean, healthy, great-tasting water from every faucet. They remove iron, hydrogen sulfide, sediment, and many other contaminants that are distasteful and damaging your fixtures. You'll be amazed how fresh and clean well water can be. Satisfaction guaranteed. Go to bestwater123.com. That's bestwater123.com.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7, with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
Or not, things are never what they seem. For the past century, forbidden subjects such as UFOs, backward engineering, human abductions, secret space programs, underground bases, suppressed free energy devices, and other fantastic notions have tested the human mind, forcing it to decipher fact from fiction. Chronicling what he calls the alternative narrative, author Brad Olson gets down to the middle of it all in his best-selling book, Future Esoteric, now released in a second edition by CCC Publishing. And now, you can get Future Esoteric at a special price, plus another free book by just using the promo code Jimmy when you check out. Just click on the Future Esoteric or CCC Publishing banner at jimmychurchradio.com. Go Beckley Teppy. Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi available, you can still listen to every minute of Fade to Black by just calling 605-562-4482. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan and no extra cost if you have unlimited minutes. Just call 605-562-4482. You can listen to me, Jimmy Church, on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Go Beckley Teppy.
You want to know a secret? I love ponies. I really love ponies. I'm serious. I couldn't stay sane without ponies to brush.
Why Fade to Black? Because you never got that pony, damn it.
This is Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
Welcome back to Fade to Black. Our guest tonight, Linda Moulton Howe. And we're talking about, we're going to get back to it right now. We're talking about her trip to Norway and looking at the plasma or the balls of light that were out there. And the research leaned towards plasma. But there was something you said there, Linda, that I need to go back and address, which was the binary issue. And what I hear from that is I kind of feel like uploading and downloading of information.
Right.
And,
exactly.
And that's curious to me. Could it be that what we saw out of Contact in the Desert was an upload of information going somewhere to the stars?
Well, I think of it as self-activating software, hardware that is here doing work for something else, doesn't need to have the prime intelligence that made it here. It is sophisticated enough to move around the cosmos, around the planet, do anything that it is programmed to do. And that is exactly what Dr. Teodorani meant when he said, I think we're dealing with intelligent thermoplasmas of unknown origin that could be programmed the way we would do a computer to send information and retrieve information. And when you go to the colors in crop formations, the colors that we saw in the early 90s, before any of all of the stuff about Team 666 Satan out of London organizing to do hoaxes for whoever was paying them to do it. In the early 90s and the end of the 80s, there were videotapes and photographs and many descriptions, myself included. In 1992, I saw my first light on top of Woodborough Hill, and it was the color of cantaloupe, a ripe cantaloupe in the flesh, or think of a pumpkin. And that particular color of a moving light at night is probably the single most common color that people have described in crop formations. Then during the day, one of the most common has been, people will say, and I've seen this myself, it looks like a mirror reflecting sunlight if you were moving the mirror the way that looks.
Right.
Okay. So now, green. Green is not a common color in the orbs associated with abductees. They've usually seen white, orange, or red. But if you go back to when were the first green fireball reports on the planet that actually got documented and reported, you have to go all the way back to 1948. And in 1948, it was over the state of New Mexico. And people, pilots, citizens, military, the civilian crews, they were reporting, and they compared it. This was the common comparison to a shamrock. Well, think of Ireland. Think of Ireland Irish green, or Kelly green as it's known. And that's what people were comparing the color to.
That's what I saw.
Well, okay, now see, this may be back into this issue of an intelligent, self-activating software that is periodically in our skies doing work. And there was a man named Lincoln La Paz. He was an astronomer in the late 1940s and 50s, and he did a project for the government to study specifically all of these Kelly Green fireball reports that were coming in 47, 48. And he saw one himself, and he sketched it. And at Earthfiles, it was in September of 2011, so that's about 5 years ago, there was over Yuma, Arizona, on a Wednesday night, that people all over reported an incredible flash of light, that it was something moving horizontally, meaning straight in the sky, not coming down, and that it had a Kelly green head to it, but streaming out of that Kelly green head was a strange orange light. And I have I'm looking at a videotape frame that I have in my Earthfiles report from September 15, 2011, that was taken from video that was recorded. Well, this was one of the first in a series of what were other green fireballs seen in 2011. So why 1947-48? Why only on cycles of time, whether it's been every 15 years or 20 years, that suddenly there will be another cycle of these green fireballs? And Lincoln La Paz himself, who saw and drew, came to the conclusion and wrote in his report that from his point of view, we were not dealing with something that was natural, that we were dealing with something that was in an unnatural and perhaps intelligence category. That was Lincoln La Paz's personal point of view. So if what you saw at Contact in this past June was, we'll use Teo Durrani's description,
right,
an intelligent thermal plasma of unknown origin, programmed like we would do computers with zeros and ones to upload and download information. That may truly be the function of these Kelly green fireballs. But yours wasn't a fireball with a trail.
Right.
Yours was a sphere that was isolated, and the spheres, these orbs, if you knew how many people that I have talked to who have seen a red or white, that's the difference, not green, come into their house, into their bedroom, on the porch, or they're out in a pasture, and one of these white or red orbs, usually described between the size of a ping pong ball in some cases to the size of a baseball in other cases, to the size of a softball or no larger than something like cantaloupe, it makes you wonder, is it exactly the same technology, not human technology, somebody else's, and that these different sizes are a function of what this particular device is doing at any given time? It may be the same type of technology, but it appears to the human eye and mind as different sizes in different circumstances. I don't have a hard answer to that, but it makes you wonder, because the same type of technology is described around the world. It doesn't matter whether it's people talking in Australia or Canada or Europe or wherever that we have gotten reports. But I would say, Jimmy, the Kelly green, whether it's the moving orb or these strange fireballs, they have been a mystery for a long time, and maybe there still is no answer to precisely what they're doing.
Tom DeLong last night, as I described it to Tom, got this text during the show after I described what I saw. And he said during the show, he said that he had referred to one of his advisors about what I saw, and could he help with a description of it. And this is the text that he got back. And the audience, you can go back and listen to the Tom DeLong interview from last night and get the exact wording about how Tom mentioned it to his advisor. But this is the text that came back. I transcribed it today, and it was this is word for word, using nanofabrication, atomic layer by atomic layer, with durable nanotexturing and quantum entanglement properties, and the use of power by the polarizable vacuum. It's the same methods that crypto-terrestrials use.
Crypto-terrestrials, yeah.
End of text. So there you go. Okay.
What the last words tie this right back to the alien presence being here on this planet underground, the crypto-terrestrials. The nanofabrication, atomic layer by atomic layer, that came up over and over again in the mystery of the layered bismuth magnesium material that Art Bell and Art got the first shipment from this Army soldier, and called me up, and I started that investigation in I think it was May of 1996. And we kept getting more letters and more information from this Army sergeant. He eventually called me and talked to me on the phone, so I got to hear his voice, and he told me that he was having to ship off to Iraq. He didn't know if he was going to return because he didn't know what would happen in Iraq, but he wanted me to know that everything that he had sent us was for real, and that the only source of information beyond the metal that he had was in his grandfather's diary, that his grandfather had kept the diary during the 40s when he was working for what would have been the Army Air Force at the time, before everything separated in 47 under Truman.
Right.
And that the bismuth magnesium metal was his grandfather, and he never explained how, that his grandfather had pulled pieces off of the bottom of a wedge-shaped craft that he was assigned in a security. and that it had glowed, and he pulled it off after it had stopped glowing, that these allegedly are the pieces that we received. Well, what is so interesting is that the bismuth layers are 1 to 4 microns, and the magnesium that is if I'm remembering correctly, it's 97.6% magnesium, 2.4% zinc, and that those layers were 100 to 200 microns. So think of a torte cake. You have a layer that is maybe a half inch, and that's the cake part. And then you have a thin coating of frosting, and that would be the bismuth. And then you're back to the cake, that would be the magnesium zinc, and then you're back to the thin layer of frosting. And you could have, in this case, each of these pieces that we got and I was investigating were 26 to 30 layers measured in an electron microscope thick. But that when you're dealing with this is nanotech, what we're describing here, that these micron layers, you could have 26 or 30, and it would still only be somewhere between 1/8 of an inch and 1/4 of an inch thick. But bright silver on one side, dark black on the other. The dark black was the bismuth side. The pure, sparkly silver was the magnesium zinc. Well, I ended up dealing with, I had a notebook full of the people that I did phone interviews and then did letters of agreement typed, signed, dated, that the people who said they wanted to study the bismuth magnesium zinc, that they would have to return it to me. I would have to have a report. And throughout all of that time, if you boiled it all down, it was that this was something that was fabricated. The Cranford lab in England looked at it just exactly from that standpoint of atomic structure. And the letter that I received from them was that this material, from their point of view, was structured at the atomic level. That's what this email is talking about, atomic layering by atomic layer. And nanofabrication, it turns out that in that 1 to 4 microns that the bismuth layers were separating the magnesium zinc, that is where you begin to move into nanotechnology. And we've always thought that there is something very significant about this bismuth and magnesium zinc layered material. But there is a paragraph in one of the letters that quotes the grandfather's diary that says this craft collided with another craft and that there was lightning, which may have been involved, and that the craft coming down, the beings on the inside went into an escape pod that launched itself from the bigger craft that was coming down to the earth to crash, that the pod of those beings ended up near the Trinity site on White Sands. The main craft is what came down near Corona, and that the non-humans activated a self-destruct mechanism in the craft that crashed at Corona. Well, that was tying in with that the father would have been at that particular crash site, and that the idea that there was a self-destruct mechanism before this safety pod was launched, it would then mean, you would think, that everything that was the real structural technology and application of this layered bismuth and magnesium zinc alternating micron layers, it would have been destroyed, right? Well, one more piece. When I got pieces and started working with a major university.
How big? How big were the pieces that were sent to you?
A whole one was about 3 inches in diameter by maybe 2 or 3 inches.
Gotcha.
And Art would get pieces cut somehow, and I had pieces that were maybe 1 inch by 1 inch or smaller to work with, and he would keep some that were totally uncut, but they were, according to the diary, these were like, when we think of having the tiles on the bottom of the shuttle for heat, and you can sort of in your mind's eye see those tiles. Well, imagine, instead of tiles, whatever these things did, that they were layered almost like if you would layer shingles on a roof and they overlay each other. These, according to my understanding from the letters and descriptions, these pieces overlaid each other all over the bottom of this wedge. It was not round, not spherical. This was wedge-shaped, like a piece of pie, he said.
Right.
And that these bismuth magnesium pieces were all on the underside that glowed for 2 or 3 hours with a colored light. I believe it was bluish orange. And then somehow this grandfather got half a dozen of these pieces off. They came off. And so when you come back to the whole question, if there was a self-destruct mechanism, and that non-humans may or may not want everything that they have to be in the hands of humans, and they destroyed what they were coming in before they got into the safety pod, this now comes to the university professor. I started working with a university professor who is asked to remain anonymous to this day. And he had access to an electron microscope, to energy dispersive spectroscopy, and a whole lot of serious technology. And he began doing all of these analyses. And one of his first communications with me was, there is a wavy pattern in every layer, and all of the waves are in sync with every wave above and below. He said, maybe this is an artifact of heat, or maybe it was built into the fabric of whatever this was in order to have resonance with some kind of electromagnetic frequency. Those were the two main options. Well, the heat issue, the destruction, the self-destruct, may have erased our ability to ever understand what these do.
What do you think about the Black Knight satellite? Have you looked into that?
I've studied the photographs. I have asked people that have helped me with other whistleblowing information. I've read the same thing that you have about going back to Kehoe and Oberth and those guys that were the first to write about that there were satellites before 1953, when the Soviets were supposed to have launched the first satellite, and then we got into the game quickly. Well, if there were satellites, I'm using plural because I think I'm remembering in that old literature, going back to Kehoe and Ruppelt, I believe they said there were more than one. Well, the Black Knight is supposed to be in the category of something that somebody has whistleblown about, saying that it has been orbiting our planet for hundreds, perhaps thousands of years. Well, whose property? Now today we've got a new language. We can say alien presence or crypto-terrestrials using our planet, or thinking this is their property and we're the surface life that they manipulate and harvest from. I don't know exactly how it works, but the crypto-terrestrials, to use Tom DeLonge's source word, if they have based underground on this planet, for reasons unknown from long ago, with the idea that they will manipulate, harvest from the surface life, then having some kind of an observer that they can manipulate, because this thing has been reported having a polar orbit.
Right.
Okay, you can take this to the bank. Nobody, Soviets, U.S., Germany, I'm going to say no one in the public literature of science, there were no polar orbit satellites whatsoever in 49, 50, 51, 52, 53.
Yeah, Sputnik didn't launch until 57.
That's right.
Right.
But these reports were from these early writings by these guys like Kehoe, is that there were, and that's what I'm remembering, plural, other satellites around this planet, and Oberth was an astronomer then.
That's right.
And Oberth told Kehoe that we had a satellite or satellites from something not terrestrial orbiting our planet. Well, if the Dark Knight, wherever the whistleblower on that came that said that this had been here for 1,000 or more years, orbiting our planet, shifting its orbit from a polar orbit to an equatorial and back,
going from east to west. Yeah, going east to west and west to east. And
So if Kehoe and company were getting information about that before there ever was Sputnik and before we ever launched, then you have to deal with what is the alien intelligence that put it there, and if they are crypto-terrestrials responsible for that and all the other things that have been going on in this planet for thousands of years, then we're just waking up, Jimmy. We're just waking up like in the middle of a Star Trek movie to the fact that we aren't the only life form of so-called intelligence, and that other things have been here for, as the DIA guy told me, we have proof that 3 competing extraterrestrial groups have been terraforming and harvesting from Earth for 270 million years from before the time of the dinosaurs. And that several of we'll call it the 2014 to 2016 period whistleblowers, whether they've been public or not. But there has been a stress, to me anyway, that we're dealing with intelligence that considers Earth a laboratory first and last, a laboratory. If Earth is considered to be a laboratory by something that's extremely advanced, then the epochs of ice ages, heating up, 85 million years of dinosaurs that are taken out almost in an instant. I'm talking about geologic time.
Right.
65 million years ago. One government guy saying to me, we're really not sure that the Chicxulub crater and the presumed asteroid that came in there, was that an accident of the cosmos, or was it something that was allowed or even provoked
absolutely.
by the manipulators of Earth in order to take out their reptilian experiment?
Right.
And what came next? Anybody can Google this. Out of the demise of the Jurassic period and the dinosaurs came mammals. And it's a big spike in the history of the Earth, like a new experiment starts.
Linda, we're at a break here. Do you want to hang on for a few more minutes after the break? Are you up to it?
Care.
Okay,
I'm fine.
That's what I'm talking about right there. Okay, Linda, stay right there because I've got a couple of things that I want to hit you with. One of them, and I know you've checked this out, is the Mandela effect. So stay with that, and also... well, I've got a couple of other things, but the the recent lightning strikes in Texas.
Oh,
yeah, exactly.
I can tell you.
Linda, we're in a break.
I talked with 2 reindeer specialists today.
Okay, we'll be right back. More with Linda Howe right after this.
Vivica Fox here, and you are listening to my boy, Jimmy Church, on JimmyChurchRadio.com.
Despite popular opinion, reading a book will not make you smarter.
But listening to Jimmy Church will.
Does your basement or crawl space have a damp, musty smell? Well, watch out. That's a sign of too much moisture and not enough ventilation. And that can mean increased mold growth and the buildup of harmful toxins and gases. Don't bother with a dehumidifier. It just circulates the same unhealthy air. Now there's a better way to remove these dangers and odors. It's with the computerized Wave Moisture Control Unit that reduces moisture and expels pollutants.
We replaced our old dehumidifier with the Wave unit, and in only 3 weeks, our basement is dry and the musty smell is gone.
Wave units require no maintenance, no buckets of water or filters, and costs only pennies a day to run. Breathe better, live healthier with an affordable, no-maintenance Wave unit. Call 888-618-WAVE, 888-618-WAVE, or visit mydryhome.com. mydryhome.com.
Ride the wave. Wave Home Solutions for a healthy, comfortable home.
What's up, Fadernauts? Studio Dome loves Fade to Black and the F2B audience so much that they have put together the ultimate stereo Bluetooth system. They've done it just for you. Man, check this out. The Studio Dome SBB2 stereo system is here. It's featuring 2 Studio Boombox 2 SBB2 wireless Bluetooth speakers, packed in its own custom hardshell case. This Studio Dome system features the very latest in stereo Bluetooth technology. The 2 full-range boomboxes are in true wireless stereo. You've got to hear this. It's amazing. It's just $129, and use the promo code JCRTWS, and you'll also get free shipping. It's simple. Just go to JimmyChurchRadio.com, click on the Studio Dome banner. Go Beckley Tepe.
This is Kristen, Erica, Brittany, Gabby, and you're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com.
It's not a lifestyle we chose. We were born this way. KGRARadio.com.
This is KJCR at JimmyChurchRadio.com.
The Fade to Black audience is the most spoiled audience in the history of radio. All of you are spoiled beyond belief, and there's no coming back from it. So all of you right now, thank Linda, not only in Twitter, in the chat rooms. I want email, everybody right now. Oh, Linda, you're up to about 25 wedding proposals, by the way. It's still coming in. I want to thank Linda Moulton Howe for coming in tonight. Great conversation. Amazing. Thank you so much. You are the very best. You can follow Linda at Earthfiles. Of course, her website is earthfiles.com. Fade to Black is produced by Rita Camarian. Shows produced by Hilton J. Palm, Mark D. Kovar, LJ3, Renee, Mark Dunbar, Jonas, thank you, Dennis, thank you, Bob. Announcers are Steve Harder, Gene Vito, and Mark D. Kovar. Fady by Dale. Webmaster is Drew the Geek. Music, Doug Aldrich. Intro, Spaceboy. SpaceboyMusic.com. Fade to Black is produced by KJCR for the Game Changer Network.